Hi folks, welcome to this edition of Straight Talk with Sid. Today I want to talk about Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the official opposition in Canada's House of Parliament. Poilievre is hoping to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. And so recently he has changed his attire, basically got rid of his glasses, got rid of his three-piece suits. Now he basically cuts about in t-shirts and jeans. So obviously he's trying to change his appeal to voters across the country, and in particular to workers, because he hasn't had a good record of looking after the interests of workers while he's been in Parliament. So let's take a look at a couple of videos and see how this guy treats workers when he comes in contact with them on a daily basis.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
Well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess.
That's what you heard there. What you saw there was some of the now infamous Apple interview. Pierre Poilievre snacking on an apple during a recent conversation with a journalist. Our front bench is here now to get into the politics of the Orchard Overture. That sentence, Kathleen, it ticked off the right people and it motivated the right. It's so interesting, right? Because it's not necessarily how we always view things, but in politics sometimes that does matter. What do you think about the impact of this video, good or bad for Poilievre?
Because actually, I see this clip as punching down, not punching up. He's punching down on this journalist, and it's reminiscent of another politician who also punched down. Remember Donald Trump? Remember when he punched down on a New York investigative journalist during one of his campaigns by mocking him openly, by calling him disabled?
Now, the thing about this video, it was a setup, because he had a videographer from the Conservative Party shooting this shot as he was being interviewed by this local reporter. And again, you know, he just chomping away, ignorant, smug look on his face, and basically ridiculing this reporter, punching down on this reporter again as he was trying to do his job, knowing full well that they were going to put this video up on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and wherever else. Just essentially take advantage of this reporter. You probably all recall the car that crashed on the Rainbow Bridge, the bridge between Canada and the US, and it burst into flames. Well, Poilievre jumps up in Parliament and tried to score some point against the government and basically said that this was a terrorist attack.
The only outlet that was reporting a terrorist attack at that time was Fox News. I know that because I was on it like everyone else. So Pierre Poilievre got up in question period and cited this report. Now, the next day, in an exchange with a Canadian press reporter, he was asked if that was appropriate.
Do you think it was responsible for you to call yesterday's explosion by the checkpoint at the Rainbow Bridge terrorism when no US or Canadian officials said that was or authorities said that was the case, and when the New York governor also said there was no evidence to suggest terrorism activity?
Actually, you're wrong. You're a CP? Okay, so CP, by the way, CP, just for everyone's knowledge, did have to make 3 corrections for falsehoods that they put into a single article. I think that might be unprecedented. I'm actually thinking about checking with the Guinness Book of World Records to see if there's ever been a news agency that has had to issue 3 corrections for patent falsehoods that they admit they had been made in one single article, and now you've made yet another falsehood in your question.
He went on to cite the CTV report in terms of what he was raising in the House of Commons. CTV had not released a report at that point. They did about 20 minutes after that. But in the moment, again, this was a Fox News report, and I understand someone who wants to be the Prime Minister of the country not wanting to be the Fox News citing person. I get that.
The next video you take a look at is dealing with the incident of layoffs in Bell Media. They laid off 4,800 workers a few days ago. And this reporter from CP again rightfully said to him the following day, "How come your party supported regulatory relief to the tune of $100 million for mainstream media, of which Bell Media got $40 million? Well, rather than answer the question, he launched into an attack on the reporter and onto the organization that she works for.
Why did your party want to grant over $100 million in regulatory relief to the mainstream media?
The media that is bought and paid for, where are you from, by the way? Which outlet are you in? Which outlet? Which outlet?
Canadian Press.
Ah, okay, Canadian Press. So you're talking about tax dollars for media. Yeah, and you want to answer?
Why does the party want to grant $100 million in
Sorry.
regulatory relief to the mainstream media?
When would you like me to respond? Okay, good. Okay, great. So, of course, you are a tax-funded media outlet and spreading Justin Trudeau's message.
Why did you
And
want to grant
so you're
$100
interrupting me
million?
again. You're interrupting me again.
Why
I am answering the question.
Do you regret granting $100 million in regulatory relief to the mainstream media, including
Your question is
Bell?
false. So if you can allow me to correct your falsehoods, then we can answer the question directly. So, false. Canadian Conservatives do not believe in giving tax dollars to media outlets. That's Justin Trudeau. That's Justin Trudeau. That's Justin Trudeau. Okay, if you don't want me to answer the question, I'll move on to someone else. You're a tax-funded mouthpiece to the PMO. That's the reality. So,
Question answered. You committed
I'm trying
to
to.
answer the question.
I'm trying to, but you're heckling.
This is not a man that has any respect for workers. If anything, he's got disdain for workers, particularly if they tried to hold him to account. Right after he got elected, a couple of days later, the media had been trying to get him to sit down or stand in front of the press gallery up in Ottawa, which is what everybody does who's a leader of a party, and explain some of his policies. But rather than do that, he's been ducking and dodging the media. So he goes to this press conference, eventually goes to a scrum, and this reporter, David Aitken, from Global News, well-respected reporter, been around a long time. He asked a question. He tried to ask a question, and he was basically shut down.
I'm going to begin my remarks now.
But will you take some questions afterwards? That's usually the way
Justin
it works.
Trudeau is out of touch, and Canadians are out of money.
I'll put my hand up.
The reason that
Can I get on the list, Anthony, to ask the question? Is that the way it works?
So we have basically a liberal heckler who snuck in here today.
But today, when he was asked a question during that famous so-called, I never thought David Aitken would be called a liberal heckler. But anyway, that was sad. That was weird.
So in conclusion, workers need to be really, really careful of how they cast their ballot in the next election. Pierre Poilievre has not been a friend to workers throughout his career since he joined Parliament when he was 24 years of age. He has worked against their interests. He tried to bring in legislation that would make what he called right to work, which is the right to lower people's wages. He tried to prevent workers from joining unions. He tried to kill off unions by taking away the funding that unions use to fight grievances and to go in and collectively bargain with their employers. He voted against increases in CPP. His party is voting against dental benefits, if you can believe it, for kids and for senior citizens. Right now, there's an opportunity for him to vote in favour of anti-SCAP legislation, which makes it easier for workers to be able to get a decent wage when they go to the bargaining table and the employer pushes them out on strike. All of those issues he's got no interest in supporting and has not supported in the past. And I do firmly believe, that if Poilievre gets elected, we are going to see right to work legislation again. We are going to see attacks on workers. Right now, he's very quiet about corporations and corporate taxes and lowering corporate taxes, which essentially takes away the lifeline for our public services, whether it be for education, whether it be for healthcare, whether it be for social programs. Be very cautious about the message that this guy is delivering. He's a chameleon. This guy is pretty good at what he's doing in terms of trying to convince people that he now has changed. He's found religion on the road to Damascus. No, he hasn't. No, he has not. So be very cautious about how you and where you place your vote in the next election. You've been listening to Straight Talk with Sid Ryan.